Ah yes, YuGiOh. The childhood show about duel monsters. A game about dueling your friends with your own deck of cards using monsters, magic, and the infamous trap. The show follows Yugimoto, a teenager whose life changes when he's gifted the Millennium Puzzle. When in need, an ancient Egyptian spirit takes over Yugi and helps him win duels and the rivals he faces. It's a great show, and one of my personal favorites from when I was a kid. The grand adventures in many different places over 5 different seasons had me in awe. So much so that I had my own set of cards that I played with against my friends. But while a lot of this is fun, and the game is all lollipops and rainbows, a lot is also dark. Really dark. For a kids show ranked at TVY7, you would expect it to be good for kids, but a lot of the content is questionable. Thankfully, when I watched it, it never seemed to hit me. But man, when you look into it. So today, I'm going to be showing you 7 of the most messed up moments from Season 1, and you'll see how YuGiOh is darker than it looks. Before we begin, I want to go into the beginnings of the show and some of the things you should know. The creator, Kazuki Takahashi, started the manga in 1996, publishing them in the Weekly Shonen Jump. It was originally intended to be a horror manga, which kinda explains why we're going to be talking about this. But anyway, while the manga is centered around games, many horror aspects impacted the story. This manga went on for 38 volumes, and from there it started the anime. In 1998, the Japanese version, called Season 0 by many fans, was released. It is closely accurate to the manga, meaning it kept its violent roots, which I could make a whole other video on, cause what the hell. The English version, which we will be covering today, was released in 2000, which a much lighter approach. This is just in time for when the world was going through a shift. More edgy sides of the media were seen everywhere, and it wasn't seen as uncommon for something to use this. So now that we know its history, why don't we begin our journey into the dark? To begin, I want to talk about one of the very first things we see in the show. That's right, this instance happens in the very first episode titled The Heart of the Cards. In this episode, Seto Kaiba, Yugi's rival, overhears Yugi tell his friends that the last piece from his missing collection, the 4th and the last Blue Eyes White Dragon card, is with Yugi's grandpa, Solomon. Kaiba heads over to the shop to try and buy the card, telling Solomon to name his price. But Solomon refuses because it was given to him by a dear friend. Kaiba then just loses it and decides that the best course of action is to... coerce Solomon into accepting a duel by sending his goons down to a store. When Solomon asks to decline, they said they must insist. After all this happens, Yugi and his friends find out his grandpa is missing when Kaiba calls them, telling him that his grandpa is not feeling well and he should come and pick him up. Then, when they get to Kaiba Corp to face Kaiba, they find Solomon seriously injured, and to add on top of that, Kaiba straight up rips Solomon's blue eyes in 2. Luckily, Yugi goes on to duel Kaiba and rescues Grandpa to finish the episode with the help of the Exodia cards. This sits at our number 1, primarily for the reason that Kaiba is just being a bully. However, this made the list as it establishes Kaiba as dangerous, not just arrogant. Solomon is an elderly man, and Kaiba shows literally no remorse for Yugi or Solomon at all. This duel with Yugi makes Kaiba basically go on a spiritual journey where he yearns to deal Yugi again, which does lead to another way more messed up moment later on in the show. But for now, this sits at our lowest spot. Next up, I want to talk about Weevil Underwood on the boat. This happens in episode 3, called Journey to Duelist Kingdom. In this episode, Yugi accepts the invitation to Duelist Kingdom, Maximilian Pegasus' tournament for $3 million, after he was bribed in a way we will mention later. While on the boat, Yugi meets Weevil Underwood, the regional champ. After hearing that Yugi has the Exodia cards, the strongest cards in the game, Weevil tricks Yugi into letting him see them. But when he gets a hold of them, he throws them overboard. Joey, Yugi's best friend, then jumps into the water hoping to get them back. Yugi soon follows after seeing Joey struggling. They are then saved by Taya and Tristan with a rope ladder and brought back to safety. This whole altercation is a mess in itself. First, Weevil does this out of jealousy, not survival. He throws away some cards that are important and irreplaceable to Yugi because of Grandpa Solomon's legacy. Then, Joey jumps in the water, and he isn't jumping off a small boat. Ocean liners meant to carry passengers are huge, meaning Joey's jump in the water would make him fall a treacherous 40 to 60 feet into the rough seas. An impact at this height could lead to serious injury, falling at speeds from 35 to 38 miles an hour. In the process of all this, Joey almost drowns and loses all his strength, which causes Yugi to do the same jump. And you want to know the best part? Weevil doesn't even win his duel. Sometimes malice doesn't need a payoff, and people will ruin lives because they can. This happens in a show meant for little kids, and it is disturbing at the bottom line. But often seen in action movies, this scene can be passed off as a heroic moment. Because of this near-death experience, and Weevil basically committing a crime, this sits at our number 2 spot. But it gets way darker from here. Next is a moment that should begin to make one pause and think. This instance happens in episode 8, 9, and 10. In the episode called Everything's Relative, we find out that a young boy escapes from Pegasus' castle and steals 5 star chips, the only way to advance in the tourney, from another duelist. Yugi and his friends then decide to help him go find the thief, and when the thief appears and challenges Yugi to a duel, he's revealed to be Mokuba Kaiba, Seto Kaiba's younger brother. Mokuba explains that Kaiba Corp, Kaiba's company, is trying to merge with Pegasus' company behind Kaiba's back. But when they find out that legally only a Kaiba family member can take over, they kidnap Mokuba and keep him hostage until the takeover is complete, which can only happen after Pegasus defeats Yugi in the duel. Thankfully, after the duel, Mokuba decides to join their side. Mokuba tries to return his chips, but one of Pegasus' guards, Kimo, throws them in the water and grabs Mokuba. Yugi then challenges Kimo to a duel for Mokuba's release. Kimo agrees, but only for a duel in 6 hours. When they finally get there, they find out the person that Yugi's gonna duel is Seto Kaiba? In the next episode, Duel with a Ghoul, is where we find out the truth. This Kaiba is a doppelganger. Let's try to unravel everything I just mentioned. First, Mokuba is a child hostage, kept away for his family's name and the state of his older brother. He gets isolated, not physically hurt, but emotionally destroyed and tortured. Then, Pegasus uses his power to bring more pain to Mokuba by making him see his brother again in the act of a doppelganger. After this duel, and Yugi wins, the gang notices Mokuba is missing, still being held captive by Pegasus and to be held for a long time until Kaiba Corp is officially Pegasus's, and even worse so, he ends up kidnapping and getting Kaiba anyway, so both brothers get locked away. Because of the kidnapping, keeping the child hostage, and taking someone else's identity, this sits at the 3rd lowest spot on the list. For this next moment, I want to talk about a certain character in the show. One that shows just how evil one could be for glory, and how this can come and catch up to you. I'm talking about none other than the US Duel Monsters champion, Bandit Keith. In episodes 17 and 18, Arena of Lost Souls Part 1 and 2, Joey gets knocked out and forced in a duel with Bandit Keith's mercenary, Bonds. This duel happens in a cave where Bonds would have the advantage with his graveyard deck. When Yugi and the gang find the cave, they go through a number of traps before finding Joey. When Joey wins the duel after getting a little motivation and realizing what he's fighting for, that being his sister, he defeats Bonds and wins the duel. When the gang attempts to leave the cave, Keith and his boys roll a big boulder on the cave entrance, literally trapping them inside. Then, he beats up his own henchmen and takes their star chips. Keith traps the gang in the cave knowing full well what he's doing and how they could die of starvation and hydration. This is a premeditated act, not an emotional outburst or something he's doing for power. Another thing is when Bonds kidnapped and forced Joey into dueling him in the cave without Joey's consent. Unluckily for him, however, he gets his own punishment after losing to Joey in the semifinals. In episode 32, Keith Machinations Part 2, Keith is kicked out of the tournament for cheating. Firstly because he stole Joey's card, allowing him to duel, but also because he was hiding his 7 completed cards under his wristband. When Keith is being thrown out, he breaks free and charges Pegasus at his podium, demanding he hand over the $3 million prize. In the Japanese version of this episode, Keith pulls out a gun, but in this English version, he only uses his finger. Unfortunately for Keith, with the press of Pegasus' foot, Keith is dropped through a trapdoor where he falls into the ocean, nearly 100 feet below him. Again, at this height, he would certainly die. If not that, some serious injuries. But if the fall didn't kill him, he's now at sea, all alone. This shows us that evil eats itself, and that Keith became a victim of his own cruelty. Luckily, if you want to say that, Keith is saved by rare hunters and is put under the control of Merrick Ishtar and reappears in Season 2. So, because Bandit Keith's record contained attempted murder, betraying his own allies, the unconsensual kidnapping of Joey, and Pegasus making him fall an enormous height, this stands at our 4th spot. Up next is a small but very suspicious thing that happens during the entirety of the season. Over the course of the season, Pegasus uses a tool, his Millennium Eye, one of the 7 Millennium items. The Millennium Eye lets Pegasus read minds, look into the person's soul, and something else that I'm going to wait to tell you later on in this video. The eye is a subtle, lingering horror that lasts over the duels. He doesn't only use it to cheat, like he does in this final duel with Yugi, being able to see all his cards.
Then what can I do? Attacking's useless. That Millennium Eye gives Pegasus access to my every card, thought, and strategy. How can I possibly win this duel?
But he uses it to put fear into people. And not only does he scare them, but he destroys their privacy by seeing everything and everyone they're thinking about. He knows secrets, insecurities, and fears, and he's not afraid to exploit them without consent. The common thought in the opponent is, what else has he already seen? Just imagine what you could be thinking of, and he reads that. It's crazy. So because of the invasion of privacy, and for using it for his own greed, this sits at the 5th spot on the list. But before we move on to the last power of the Millennium Eye, I want to talk about one final moment involving a really dark instance. In episode 22, 23, and 24, all called Face Off Part 1, 2, and 3, Yugi and Kaiba have another duel because of a deal Pegasus made with Kaiba. If he can beat Yugi, he can get Mokuba back. When the duel begins, everything is going well. The two are using Kaiba's new duel disc and are having an awesome duel. Kaiba even ends up fusing his 3 rare Blue Eyes White Dragon cards to make the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. This is a challenge for Yugi, but he overcomes it by multiplying his Kaiba card. Then, Yugi plays Mammoth Graveyard, which starts to rot and decay Kaiba's Blue Eyes. So Kaiba, being on the brink of defeat and wanting to save his brother, does the only thing he can think of. He moves to the ledge of the roof and threatens Yugi by saying if he commits to his next move, the impact will throw him off the roof, killing him. The ancient spirit inside Yugi does the attack anyway, but with help from Taya, Yugi calls it off, and Yugi loses his first duel of the show. Yugi then has a moment of fear, where he feels he doesn't understand the amount of power the spirit has over him, even considering killing to win. This part in the show is just crazy. Kaiba uses his own life as a weapon, making it so that he can't lose the duel. But what if Yugi did do it, and Kaiba fell? It's a game of high risk and a stupid move by Kaiba. Yugi is faced with a moral dilemma, and the idea that winning equals murder. It seems like something easy and simple to answer, but Yugi's spirit, Yami, almost does it. Then Yugi has to live with the fear of how much farther is the spirit willing to go, and does he even have control over it? Kaiba doesn't care about putting his life on the line, nor that Yugi has to live with it. This crosses the rivalry into to an emotional blackmail and a threat of suicide. Both extremely heavy topics for a kid's show. So because of these reasons, this sits at number 6 on the list and the before last spot of the darkest moment in Yu-Gi-Oh! What happens next will truly shock you. Finally, we get to the final moment. This again revolves around Pegasus and his Millennium Eye. The final power of the Eye, and a famous moment along the show, is the Eye's ability to capture souls. It's been happening all along the show, and these moments I've covered. Why is Yugi going to Duelist Kingdom? Because Pegasus took Yugi's grandpa, Solomon's soul, and captured it in a Duel Monsters card. And if Yugi doesn't come and save him, he'll be trapped forever. Why does Yugi duel Kaiba on the top of the roof? Because of the deal he made with Pegasus to get Mokuba. But why? Because Pegasus has Mokuba's soul. Then, when Kaiba duels Pegasus himself in episode 26, he loses his own soul after he loses because of Pegasus' cheating. Then, Yugi and the others figure it all out in episode 28, the night before, when Yugi is awakened by Solomon and he finds out the truth about the souls. Not only that, when Tristan, Taya, and Bakura, 3 of Yugi's friends, think Pegasus is cheating and they go find out, Pegasus captures them and sends them to an ancient Egyptian memory and shows them the Shadow Realm. His entrapment of souls is the darkest part of the show by far. The body of the souls he removes from even stay conscious, which he uses to manipulate and play with his victims. Even if they can't move or are in a coma-like state, they're kept in a cage and locked in a dark cellar where no one can find them. The souls, on the other hand, are left in the Shadow Realm, a dark and gloomy place no one wants to be, and kept there to be tormented. And there's no time limit on this either. They're kept there to be tortured until Pegasus decides to let them go. Lastly, Pegasus uses this as a game mechanic and as a tool to torment people and get what he wants. It's an evil move and an existential horror of loss of self, agency, and morality all at once. Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is way darker than people remember. Souls, suicide threats, possession, imprisonment, all wrapped into card games and friendship speeches, and all with a rating of TVY7. I won't say that it's a bad show for kids. A lot of the elements are great, showing friendship and to never give up. But on the other hand, there's a lot more mature content that is surprising to see in a show meant for little kids. As I said earlier, when I watched it as a kid, it never seemed to affect me. It's only when I rewatched it for fun recently and as an older guy that it hit how dark and mysterious the show really was. Also, this is not me slandering the show, as this is one of my favorites of all time, but it's simply me showing you the moments that may have gone over your heads and analyzing them to show you more. It's just me showing you 7 moments in the show that make you think, should this really be in a kid's show? So what do you think? Did you watch the show as a kid and think the same? Or were you just realizing the depth of the show? If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you guys left a like and commented on what your favorite part was. Also guys, I want to thank you guys so much for the amount of support I got on the last video and how much we're growing currently. It's definitely something I never expected and it's really cool to see, so I just want to say thank you. Also, I have a gaming channel if you guys want to check that out, which will be in the links in the description. If you want to see how I've done some research, then all the links will be down below as well. Then I also want to say, or give a shout out to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Wiki, because it gave me a lot of summaries of episodes and different analyses that I wouldn't have gotten without it. So, yeah guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in another one.